Verse for opening a sutra. The unsurpassed profound and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in hundreds of millions of aeons. I now see and hear it, receive and uphold it, and I vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. The wonderful Dharma, Lotus Flower Sutra, Vision of the Jeweled Stupa, Chapter 11. At that time, there manifested before the Buddha a stupa made of the 7 jewels. It was 500 yojanas in height and 250 yojanas in breadth. It welled up out of the earth and stood in empty space, adorned with all kinds of jeweled objects. It had 5,000 railings and thousands of myriads of clothes. Countless banners and pennants adorned it as well. Jeweled beads were hung from it, and myriads of millions of jeweled bells were suspended from its top. The scent of Tamalapatra Chandana issued from all 4 sides and filled the entire world. All its banners and canopies were made of the 7 jewels: gold, silver, lapis lazuli, mother of pearl, carnelian, pearls, and agate, reaching up to the palace of the 4 heavenly kings. From the heaven of the 33, there rained heavenly mandarava flowers as an offering to the jeweled stupa. All the gods, dragons, yakshas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kinnaras, mahoragas, humans, non-humans, and so forth, thousands of myriads of millions of them, made offerings to the jeweled stupa of all kinds of flowers, incense, beads, banners, canopies, and instrumental music, reverently honoring it and praising it. At that time, a loud voice issued from the stupa, speaking in praise, saying, good indeed, Shakyamuni, world-honored one, that you are able, by means of your undifferentiating great wisdom, to speak for the great assembly, the wonderful Dharma, Flower Sutra, a Dharma for teaching bodhisattvas, of whom the Buddhas are protective and mindful. So it is, Shakyamuni, world-honored one, that all you say is true and real. Just then, the 4 assemblies, seeing the great jeweled stupa standing in mid-air and hearing the voice from within it, all gained Dharma joy and marveled at this unprecedented occurrence. They rose from their seats, reverently placed their palms together, and withdrew to one side. Just then, a bodhisattva mahasattva, by the name of Great Delight in Speaking, knowing the doubts in the minds of all the gods, humans, and asuras, and others from all the worlds, spoke to the Buddha, saying, world-honored one, by means of what causes and conditions has this jeweled stupa welled up out of the earth and produced this loud sound? Then the Buddha told the bodhisattva, Great Delight in Speaking, within this jeweled stupa is the complete body of the thus come one. Long ago, limitless thousands of myriads of millions of Asankhya's worlds to the east, in a land called Jeweled Purity, there was a Buddha by the name of Many Jewels. When this Buddha was practicing the Bodhisattva path, he made a great vow, saying, after I have become a Buddha and pass into extinction, in any of the 10 direction lands where the Dharma Flower Sutra is spoken, my stupa shall appear there, that I may hear the sutra and certify it, praising it, saying, good indeed, good indeed. After that Buddha had realized the way, when he was about to enter into extinction, in the great assembly of gods and humans, he spoke to the bhikshus, saying, after my extinction, those who wish to make offerings to my complete body should build a large stupa. by the power of his spiritual penetrations and his vow, throughout the 10 direction worlds, wherever anyone speaks the Dharma Flower Sutra, that Buddha's jeweled stupa, containing his complete body, wells up from the earth before the one speaking, and expresses praise by saying, "Good indeed, good indeed." Great delight in speaking, because he has heard the Dharma Flower Sutra being spoken. The stupa of the thus come one, many jewels, has now welled up out of the earth with these words of praise, "Good indeed, good indeed." Just then, the Bodhisattva, great delight in speaking, by means of the spiritual power of the thus come one, spoke to the Buddha, saying, "World-honored one, we all wish to see this Buddha's body." The Buddha told the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, great delight in speaking, "The Buddha Many Jewels has made a profound and solemn vow. When my jeweled stupa manifests in the presence of the Buddhas, because the Dharma Flower Sutra is heard, if there is anyone who wishes me to show my body to the 4 assemblies, then the division body Buddhas of that Buddha, who is speaking Dharma in the worlds of the 10 directions, must all return and gather together in one place. Afterward, my body will appear." Great delight in speaking. My division body Buddhas present in the 10 direction worlds, speaking Dharma, should now gather together. Great delight in speaking said to the Buddha, "World-honored one, we also wish to see the division bodies of the world-honored one, so that we may bow to them and make offerings." At that time, the Buddha emitted a white hair-marked light, in which were seen the Buddhas of the lands in the eastern direction, equal in number to the grains of sand, in 500 myriads of millions of nayutas of Ganges rivers. All the Buddha lands had crystal for soil, and were adorned with jeweled trees and jeweled clothing. Countless thousands of myriads of millions of bodhisattvas filled them. They were covered with jeweled canopies and jeweled nets. The Buddhas in those lands, with a great and wonderful sound, were speaking the Dharma. Also seen were limitless thousands of myriads of millions of bodhisattvas filling those lands, speaking the Dharma for the multitudes. Thus it was also in the south, west, north, the 4 intermediate directions, as well as upward and downward, wherever the white hair-marked light shone. At that time, all the Buddhas of the 10 directions addressed a host of bodhisattvas, saying, "Good men, we should now go to the Saha world, to the place of Shakyamuni Buddha, and make offerings to the stupa of the thus come one, many jewels." Just then, the Saha world was transformed into one of purity, with lapis lazuli for soil, and adorned with jeweled trees. Its 8 roads were bordered with golden cords. In it there were no towns, villages, cities, oceans, rivers, streams, mountains and brooks, forests or thickets. Precious incense was burned, and mandarava flowers completely covered the ground. Above it jeweled nets were spread, and banners hung with jeweled bells. Only those in the assembly remained, as the gods and humans had been moved to another land. Then all of the Buddhas, each bringing with him one great bodhisattva as an attendant, reached the Saha world and went to the foot of a jeweled tree. Each jeweled tree was 500 yojanas in height, and adorned with branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Beneath each jeweled tree was a lion throne, 500 yojanas in height, adorned with great jewels. Then each of the Buddhas sat in the lotus posture on his own throne. In this way, by turns, the lands of the 3,000 great thousand worlds were filled and still there was no end to the division bodies of Shakyamuni Buddha from even one direction. Then Shakyamuni Buddha, wishing to accommodate his division body Buddhas, transformed in each of the 8 directions 200 myriads of millions of nayutas of lands, purifying them all. They were without hells, hungry ghosts, animals or asuras. The gods and humans were all moved to other lands. The lands he transformed all had lapis lazuli for soil and were adorned with jeweled trees, 500 yojanas tall, decorated with branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Beneath each tree was a jeweled lion throne, 5 yojanas tall, decorated with various gems. There were no oceans, rivers, or streams, and no Muchalinda or Maha Muchalinda mountains, no iron ring or great iron ring mountains, and no Mount Sumerus or any other kings of mountains. All became one Buddha land. The jeweled earth was level and flat, covered entirely with gem-studded canopies and hung with banners. Precious incense was burned, and heavenly precious flowers covered the ground. Shakyamuni Buddha, in order that the Buddhas who were coming might have a place to sit, then further transformed in each of the 8 directions 200 myriads of nayutas of lands, purifying them all. They were without hells, hungry ghosts, animals, or asuras. The gods and humans were all moved to the other lands. The lands he transformed all had lapis lazuli for soil and were adorned with jeweled trees, 500 yojanas tall, decorated with branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits. Beneath each tree was a jeweled lion throne, 5 yojanas tall, decorated with various gems. There were no oceans, rivers, or streams, and no Muchalinda or Maha Muchalinda mountains, no iron ring or great iron ring mountains, and no Mount Sumerus or any other kings of mountains. All became one Buddha land. The jeweled earth was level and flat, covered entirely with gem-studded canopies, and hung with banners. Precious incense was burned, and heavenly precious flowers covered the ground. Then the division bodies of Shakyamuni Buddha, from the eastern direction, Buddhas in number to the grains of sand, in 100,000 myriads of millions of nayutas of lands, each speaking the Dharma, assembled there. In like manner, in turn, the Buddhas from all the 10 directions arrived and assembled there, taking their seats in the 8 directions. At that time, each direction was filled with Buddhas thus come once, from the 400 myriads and millions of nayutas of lands, in each of the 4 directions. At that time, all those Buddhas, each seated on a lion throne beneath a jeweled tree, sent an attendant to inquire after Shakyamuni Buddha, giving them each a sack full of flowers and saying to them, "Good men, go to Mount Gridrakuta, to the place of Shakyamuni Buddha, and ask in our name, are you free from illness and distress? Are you strong and at ease? Are the hosts of bodhisattvas and hearers at peace? Then scatter these precious flowers before the Buddha as an offering, saying, the Buddha so-and-so wishes that the jeweled stupa be open." All the Buddhas sent attendants in this manner. Then Shakyamuni Buddha, seeing that the division body Buddhas had all assembled there, each seated on a lion throne, and hearing that all the Buddhas together wished that the jeweled stupa be open, immediately arose from his seat into empty space. All those in the 4 assemblies rose, placed their palms together, and single-mindedly beheld the Buddha. Then Shakyamuni Buddha, using his right forefinger, opened the door of the stupa of 7 jewels, which made a great sound like that of a boat being removed from a large city gate. Thereupon the entire assembly perceived the thus come one many jewels, seated upon the lion throne inside the jeweled stupa, his body whole and undecayed, as if he were in dhyana samadhi. They also heard him say, good indeed, Shakyamuni Buddha, quickly speak the Dharma Flower Sutra. I came here to hear this sutra. The 4 assemblies, upon seeing a Buddha who had crossed over into extinction limitless thousands of myriads of millions of eons ago, speak in this way, praised it as something unprecedented. They scattered heaps of precious heavenly flowers upon the Buddha, many jewels, and Shakyamuni Buddha. The Buddha many jewels in the jeweled stupa offered half of his seat to Shakyamuni Buddha, saying, Shakyamuni Buddha, would you take this seat? Shakyamuni Buddha then entered the stupa and sat in full lotus on half of that seat. The great assembly, seeing the 2 thus come ones seated in the jeweled stupa in full lotus on the lion throne, all had this thought, the Buddhas are sitting up so high and far off. We only wish that the thus come one would use the power of his spiritual penetrations and enable us all to dwell in empty space. Shakyamuni Buddha then used his spiritual powers and took the entire assembly up into empty space. With a great voice he addressed the 4 assemblies, saying, who, in this Saha land, can broadly speak the sutra of the Dharma flower? Now is the proper time, for the thus come one will shortly enter nirvana. The Buddha wishes to bequeath the Dharma flower sutra. The world-honored one, wishing to restate this meaning, spoke verses saying, the sagely Lord, world-honored one, although long extinct within this jeweled stupa, has come here for the Dharma. Who would not be diligent for the sake of the Dharma? This Buddha became extinct countless eons ago, and yet, in place after place, he listens to the Dharma because it is difficult to encounter. In the past, this Buddha made a vow, after my extinction, I will go everywhere in order to hear the Dharma. Also my division bodies, limitless Buddhas, equal in number to the Ganges sands, have come, wishing to hear the Dharma, and to see the extinct, thus come one many jewels. Casting aside their wondrous lands, and assemblies of disciples, gods, people, dragons, and spirits, and various offerings, they've come here to cause the Dharma long to abide. In order to seat those Buddhas, I've used my spiritual powers to move countless multitudes and purify the lands. Each one of the Buddhas takes his place beneath a jeweled tree, like a lotus adorning a clear, clean pond. Beneath the jeweled trees, there are lion thrones, upon which the Buddhas sit, adorned with brilliant light, like great torches gleaming in the darkness of the night. Their bodies emit a delicate fragrance, pervading the 10 direction lands. All beings perfumed by it are overwhelmed with joy, like a great wind blowing the small trees. By means of this expedient device, the Dharma is caused long to abide. To the great assembly I say, after my extinction, who can protect and uphold, read, speak, and recite this sutra? Now in the presence of the Buddhas, he should make a vow. The Buddha many jewels, although long extinct, by means of his great vow, utters the lion's roar. The thus come one many jewels as well as myself and the transformation Buddhas here assembled, will know of this resolution. All you disciples of the Buddha, whoever can protect this Dharma, should make a great vow to cause the Dharma long to abide. Whoever can protect the Dharma of this sutra has thereby made offerings to me and many jewels, the Buddha many jewels, dwelling in the jeweled stupa, all his travels throughout the 10 directions, for the sake of this sutra. Moreover, they'll have made offerings to the transformation Buddhas here, who adorn with splendor all the worlds. If one speaks this sutra, they will then see me, the thus come one many jewels, and the transformation Buddhas. All of you good men, think it over carefully. This is a difficult matter, requiring a great vow. Other sutras number, like the Ganges river sands, but although one spoke them, it would not be thought difficult. If one took Mount Sumeru and tossed it to another land, across countless Buddha lands, that also would not be difficult. Or if with a toe one kicked the great 1,000 worlds to another far-off land, that also would not be difficult. Were one to stand on the peak on the heavens, and for the multitudes proclaim, limitless are the sutras, that too would not be difficult. But if after the Buddha's extinction, within the evil age, one can speak this sutra, that is difficult. If someone took empty space in his hand and wandered around with it, that would not be difficult. But if after my extinction, one can write out and uphold it, and encourage others to write it out, that is difficult. If one were to take the earth and place it on one's toenail and carry it up to the Brahma heavens, that too would not be difficult. After the Buddha's extinction, in the evil age, to read this sutra but for an instant, that is difficult. If during the fire at the kalpa's end, one carried a load of dry grass on one's back, and entering the fire was not burned, that would not be difficult. But after my extinction, if one can uphold the sutra and speak it to a single person, that is difficult. If one upheld 84,000 Dharma treasuries and the 12 divisions of the canon, expounding upon them to others, causing all the listeners to gain the 6 spiritual penetrations, even if one could do this, it would not be difficult. But if after my extinction, one can listen to and accept this sutra and inquire into its meaning, that is difficult. If one were to speak the Dharma and cause 1,000 myriads of millions of limitless, countless beings, like the Ganges sands, to obtain arahatship and perfect the 6 spiritual penetrations, although it would be beneficial, it would not be difficult. But after my extinction, if one can reverently uphold such a sutra as this, that indeed is difficult. I, for the sake of the Buddha way, throughout limitless lands, from the beginning until now, have broadly expounded all the sutras, and among them all, this sutra is foremost. If one can uphold it, he then upholds the Buddha's body. Good men, after my extinction, who can receive and uphold, read and recite this sutra, now in the presence of the Buddha, should make a vow. This sutra is hard to uphold. If one upholds it for but an instant, I will rejoice, and so will all the Buddhas. One such as this shall be praised by all the Buddhas. This is courage This is vigor. This is called morality and the practice of the dotas. He will then quickly obtain the supreme Buddha way. If, in the future, one can read and uphold this sutra, he is then a true disciple of the Buddha, dwelling in the pure good stage, and one who after the Buddha's extinction can understand its meaning, will act as eyes for all gods and humans in the world. In the age of terror, one who can speak it for an instant will be worthy of the offerings of all the gods and humans.